Good morning. There's a few thoughts about week 3 and some of the coming attractions for week 4 and the conclusion of the workshop. It's amazing how time flies, and really we should be all aiming to finish this workshop by September the 12th if possible. Okay? So, a few thoughts about this week. The glossaries that were created about service were absolutely fantastic. Some wonderful visuals, particularly, and definitions to go along with those visuals. A few things, a few phrases or words that were used that I thought were really good and a little bit unusual were the inclusion, particularly of the idea of accountability for students. I think that's something really important. In one of them, one of the glossaries, a really wonderful visual about empathy and compassion, which I think are two key things which students need to be exhibited to have a successful CAS program. Another thing which was in there, which I thought was really good and interesting, was the idea of social entrepreneurship, and that has a lot of possibilities for CAS. So I'd like to thank you all for your efforts there, because I thought some really useful glossaries and vocabularies that could be used depending on how you've presented it, either as a poster or perhaps in your student handbook. Then we moved on to the idea of service learning, and a lot of you came up with some key points about service learning, particularly indicating that it actually linked knowledge and skills from the academic courses with an authentic need in the community. That link between the two is an important one, and it's one that's sort of often overlooked in defining it. And the CAS stages form an important framework, really, in linking service learning to CAS. Unfortunately, you will see in the CAS guide itself, there's no definition of service learning per se. It's rather just this link through the 5 stages model. There were some great ideas about how to promote service learning, and particularly the need to educate other subject teachers about service learning so that they could see some possibilities for service, but from their academic subjects. And also some great ideas about how to improve reflection, as that's a very important part of service learning, and one that the 5 stages model suggests should be continuous throughout the service learning experience. I think that the suggestions that some of you had about peer reflections and also the importance of being open to the type of reflection that students choose, I think is really important. So then we, as a consequence of that, we looked at 2 links, really specific links between the academic subjects that you teach and service projects. And there were lots of really good practical ideas and practices which obviously that you've come across and used in your schools. So that was great. Lastly, the other link we had was to the theory of knowledge. Now, there are, I think, 2 important links here to the theory of knowledge. The first one is through the ways of knowing. How do we actually acquire knowledge? And in CAS, we use very much the ways of knowing, things like our emotions, how we understand language, how we use reason, and our sense perception and memory in finding things out about CAS itself. So this can actually help a better understanding of the ways of knowing, can help students to understand how to reflect better and in a more critical way. The second area, which I think is really important, is to consider particularly the area of knowledge of ethics. in TOK, in the area of knowledge of ethics, students are shown different ethical systems for making decisions. And this is something which the students can actually use to analyse how they behave when they're actually carrying out CAS. And it helps the students to clarify their own set of values, something which is really important. So the link between CAS and TOK is very important, and particularly in helping students to identify ethical dilemmas which occur often through CAS. And there were some really good examples of ethical dilemmas which you produced from your own experience, and the theory of knowledge. So I think one of the things which is important is that you try to establish a link between the theory of knowledge and CAS formally in the school, that you try to see if it's possible to have some joint lessons and reflections, reflecting about CAS experiences in TOK language and particularly in the knowledge area of ethics. The other thing is that CAS experiences can provide the real life situations that students need to use in actually having a TOK presentation. Okay, this last week of the course covers really some very pragmatic and practical things. We're going to ask you to look at how you would produce a handbook for advisors. If you don't have advisors, you might think about how you would produce a handbook for consumption by other members of the school community, for example. Then we go on to look at how you've organised and set about your CAS portfolio. So I think that's something which is really important. And I think we really need to look carefully at how that's being structured and what tools you're using to actually do this. So I think those things are sort of really important, and we're also asking you to look at what risk management policies you actually have in place at your school. Two things to finish off with. First of all, one of the things that I'm keen to see as a result of this is, where do you go from here? What are your future plans for CAS? And the last part of the workshop is actually getting you to detail what you would do. You are expected at the end of the workshop to write some concluding comments about the workshop and how it's been for you. Okay, well, I'll say goodbye now. I must say I've been really enthused by reading your posts for week 3, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to say for week 4. Take care for now. Bye.